Good morning. How are you doing? Stephen Schnepel. My family normally comes to the 8:30 service and sits in the front row. If you never heard them, you have. They're usually the loudest people in the room. Been with the fire department 16 years now. Hired at 21 years of age. So 9/11, right? If you don't remember it, then you were too young. I was in 10th grade in University Christian School. Raised in a Christian home. Went to Christian school. Saved around 8 years old, got baptized. Obviously, God says in His Word that, when it's sowed into you, you'll remember it throughout your days. And then when you get old enough to you'll put away those childish things and you'll be an adult in Christ. So once graduation happened, obviously, I sought God more. I served in church, played in a traveling Christian band, actually did some, this is funny to say, breakdancing and traveling as hip-hop. Did a lot of that through the East Coast and was involved in a ministry called Breakers for Christ, so did a lot of things for God, and as I did that, I got to meet a lot of cool people that encouraged me and helped me grow, obviously some mentors. We're talking about September 11th. I'm going to read some times for you and just some remembrance. Firefighters have a rich culture of tradition, which is always necessarily a good or bad thing, but sometimes it can be more bad than good. But at this time, I'm going to read some times from when the planes crashed. So, 8:46 a.m., the North Tower was struck by airplane. 9:03 a.m., the South Tower was struck. 9:37, the Pentagon was hit. 9:59, the first tower, which is the South Tower, collapsed. 10:07, Flight 93, with the bravery of his passengers, overtook the airplane, and it crashed in Pennsylvania. 10:28, the North Tower collapsed. So in that time frame of an hour and a half to 2 hours, obviously our world stood still, and 343 selfless firefighters ran into something that they never knew was going to probably come down, but they probably knew when it hit, it probably wouldn't be a great day. So 343 brave souls. They call firemen a little bit wild and crazy. I can attest to that, because when we're running in, when people are running out, obviously, if something's on fire is not a normal thing people want to run into and tackle, but that's what we do because we love to do it, and we're a little bit different, as my mom would say. And so sleeping arrangements, I'm going to just tackle this real quick. Sleeping arrangements, we do have a close-knit group because the cops are upset because they can only go eat donuts together and hang out in their cars. Nah, just kidding. Nah, we have a very good brotherhood along with our fire and cops. We have a very close relationship with them as well. We have tons of cops come by the fire station, hang out with us to get out of the weather, especially our motorcycle cops. Come get coffee, come eat, break bread with us. So we love our cops as well. And it's that healthy banter that keeps us encouraged. If you think we're ragging on each other and really hateful, we're not. It's just our way of communicating and loving on each other versus hugs and kisses. We give that banter. So, obviously, like I said, I was in 10th grade, 16 years old, sitting in history class at University Christian School. The first plane ran in and hit. So obviously, we turn on the TVs in the classrooms, and we're worrying about things. And of course, me as a 16-year-old, I'm worried and thinking and asking God, well, what does this mean for me? Am I going to get out of high school and get drafted? Because that's what I think the first time a big war comes up is I'm going to get drafted. So that was my thing. When I get drafted and get sent to war, and I don't want to leave my family and friends. I don't want to die serving in that aptitude. And thank you for the service that you have. If you've done that, like I said, I just wasn't at the time brave enough to want to accept that and have that as an option that was forced upon me. So fast forward to graduation. I wanted to go to University of Central Florida and pursue an engineering degree, mechanical, aerospace, something like that. And I didn't have the grades to go into that platform initially. If you don't know me, if I don't get it now, I go do something else because I want what I want now, and that's just what it is. So a blessing that God, hopefully as I keep speaking, as you're going to hear, has changed my soul and my heart, which has been a huge benefit, and I can only done it through Him. So when I didn't get into school at UCF, God called me, obviously, to the fire department. So I met a friend, and they were on the fire department already, and I talked to them, and they said, well, if you want to deal with math and science and have fun and have a brotherhood, and you played sports in high school and you did all these wild things and you like to dance and play music, think how much time you can have to serve God and do those things when you're on the job, because you work 1 day on, 2 days off, and you get paid for it. I'm like, you know what, that sounds pretty darn good. So I started seeking that process, went to school. But when I went to school, we had a bunch of older, traditional firefighters teaching the program. And when I walked in, they said, "Hey, how old are you? I think your mom needs to sign you a permission slip to come to class." And that's the banter, obviously. And I said, "Yeah, I know. I just want to be a firefighter." And he said, "Well, good luck, son. It's probably going to take you 8 years to get hired on the fire department. You probably need to go do something else after you get done with here because whatever." And I said, "Well, between me and you, I accept that. That's fine if that's God's plan, but I feel this is where I need to be." Fast forward time, obviously I didn't leave my time to waste. I felt that God still had a calling on me, so I went to EMT, paramedic, and started getting all the education I could. 2006 came around, I got a phone call from Jacksonville Fire Rescue. In 2006, obviously I graduated in 2003, so a little bit, 3.5 years of time frame when most people were getting hired 8, 10 years with experience from other departments. So that was something that was never heard of, getting hired in 3 or 4 years. So of course, getting hired young, impressionable, all that stuff, you get into a place where God has you placed in places that you may not want to be. So I'm going to call out this verse real quick, and I have 2 of them. One is Jeremiah 29:11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, a plan to prosper you and not to harm you, a plan to give you a hope and a future." So obviously back in 2001 when the trade towers hit, and I saw those selfless firefighters, first responders, cops, civil servants, whoever was there, going into a predicament that they knew they may not come out of, obviously that was a seed planted in my soul that God knew what my destiny was going to be. So his plans had already taken place. He knew when I walked in to go to fire school that even the intent was it may be 8 to 10 years from now. He knew that my plan and my timing was to get hired at this certain time. And then like Mr. Lee said, I'm going to refer that to Isaiah 55:9. "As the heavens are higher than earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." So, pursue, pass forward. I made engineer. Obviously, wasn't the engineer I wanted to be as far as my plans was, but I made engineer, which is our driver, or they call them chauffeurs in New York. So I was a chauffeur for 5 years. Drove rescue, drove the engine. I met a very good mentor of mine, Chief David Squires. I got stale in my career, like Mr. Lee said as well, because I'm hyperactive. If you never knew me personally, I'm pretty amped up. So he said, "Well, if you're bored, why don't you become educated?" And I'm like, "Well, I am educated. I got a degree. I went to fire school, whatever." He said, "Well, why don't you be a special operator?" And I'm like, "Well, what does that necessarily mean for me?" He goes, "Well, the city's going to pay for it. Go do it. Even if you don't like it, you got the training." I said, "Well, I want to promote and sooner or later go and be an officer, so I don't want to make bad decisions for my crew, and I want to be able to teach people more than just the baseline of stuff." So I went to hazmat technician, never knowing that God's plan was me when I promoted lieutenant, that someone wanted me to go over there and be an officer to be in charge of hazmat. So did hazmat, USAR, airport rescue firefighting, and all those different things. So obviously, like I said, even though I wasn't necessarily, when I first got hired, seeking those things, God asked me or had people push me in those directions. And so I challenge you as a person that if God comes or someone comes and you feel like it's God pushing in those directions, that you don't be fearful, that you allow God to walk with you and to pursue those things, because God will open up more doors than you can ever imagine, just like me in my career. I was fine with just being a firefighter. My mom and my dad both, when I got told them, "Hey, I'm going to be a firefighter." Obviously, education was huge in our family. We needed all this education, and I was scared because I was like, "Well, what are they going to say? You're going to be a civil servant, that's awesome, but the pay's not good, or it's not really that much of a career. You need to go be a big business person." But I was met with grace and love, and they thought it was a very good idea, except for my mom, because my mom knew me more than anybody. So thank you, moms that know your kids. And she goes, "Well, I think it'd be great and all, and I'm glad about your passion." But she remembers me at every single time I saw blood or vomit or poop, for the picking up the dog's poop. I would be in the corner going, So obviously she knew me, but God obviously, like I said before, had a plan for me. He already knew what I was supposed to do in my life, and since I just chose to do that, He changed me on the inside out. He changed the way I see things, the way I perceive things, the way I react and act to it. If you don't know about the fire and military and police services, obviously we see things that the normal people don't see, and we become numb and void to those things. Death is one of those things. We see and hold on to things really tightly. There's a lot of PTSD, a lot of stress, a lot of fear, a lot of things that haunt us on a daily basis. But I can account that because God has been with me and I've had a place to go to in His Word, that He has actually saved me more times than I realize. And that people are suffering, I'm the one that is able to now cope and help those who are suffering. So thank you for your time, and just trust in God that He has you where you're supposed to be, and He's always going to lead you where you need to go.